Before we go into the podcast, I want to just talk about a business that I've set up with my friend George. It is called the Podcast Introduction Group. So if you want to join and be able to be featured on 24 to 48 podcasts to be able to reach an amazing audience, this is the place you need to go to. Podcast, being a guest on podcasts, is automatically establishing you as an authority and is able to build your personal and professional brand. We handpick of a bank of podcasters that we have to be able to grow your business and brand. We do 100% of everything that needs to be done by my team. You do not need to lift a finger. You are able to expose yourself to new and relevant markets by going on other people's podcasts. You also are able to create brand loyalty. People will love listening to you and coming back to your products or services, and it's able to increase your revenue. So if you want to be able to get involved, you can sign up quickly, registered with an account manager. There's an onboarding call where we target the podcasts that you want to be on, the type that you want, whether it's entrepreneurship, business, health, fitness, whatever it is. We then match you to those podcasts and you can start your journey. We have regular catch-ups with our account managers, and Google ranks you when people search for you. So when people are searching for you, you're able to see your podcasts at the top of the list. So if you're interested in being a podcast guest on multiple podcasts, we are the place to go. If you go to podcastintroduction.com and go and register your details, we will have a quick call with you, match your podcast that you want to be on, and we can then start this process ASAP. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Back onto the podcast then. Today we have Brian Winch, who is the author and owner of Clean Lots. Hello, Brian. How are you?
Great. How are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, really good. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I ask the same question to all of my guests. The podcast is called Absolute Business Mindset. But what does a business mindset mean to you?
It means that you have a positive attitude and you're self-motivated to do the things necessary to operate your business. You're going to run into problems, and you have to have that mindset where when you do run into obstacles, you're going to find solutions to problems.
We'll come on to more detail about your business and how you got there. But name one, this is off script, but name one thing that you struggled with that you've been able to positively move forward with.
Oh, I guess that would be tech. I started my business in 1981, well before the internet and cell phones. If anyone living back then, they were pretty huge. And, very few people had them. They were pretty expensive. The batteries were about the size of a briefcase to charge those cell phones. Yeah. So, I started my business, back in the day, like I said, before the internet and a lot of computers. And so gradually, as technology creeped into the business, I had to learn, and it didn't come natural to me. But again, you have to, if you're in business, you have to have that mindset that, you've got to learn skills that, so that you're able to market your business, and you have to be where your prospects are and your customers are.
Yeah. And that sort of adaptability is so important to have a long business, a business for a long time. So I agree with you 100%. So let's just talk about your upbringing, your education. So what was your upbringing like? Were you in Calgary when you grew up?
Yeah, I'm a native Calgarian, which makes me pretty rare. Most people that live in the city tend to have come from other places in the country or around the world. I grew up in a family, two brothers. Both of my parents were blue collar, hardworking, working class people. We didn't have a lot of money, but my parents never complained. They did what they had to do to support their three sons and the family. So my mom oftentimes would, do things to bring in extra money. She would babysit. I remember the family house. We had two of them at the time, not at the same time, but different times. We always made sure that there was a basement suite where we could rent it out to people and generate extra income that way. And my father was a janitor or a caretaker for the public school system. And he would oftentimes do things outside of work, such as, cutting grass in the summer, shoveling snow in the winter, and even cleaning up litter from parking lots. And, that side gig of his was the inspiration for my eventual business.
Absolutely. And we'll come on to clean lots in a minute. But was your family entrepreneurial?
Well, you know what? I learned how to become entrepreneurial from their examples. They were always kind of, doing something on the side to generate that extra income, which the family needed, because neither one of them were that educated. My mom didn't work. She stayed home and took care of us when we were growing up as kids. And so it kind of left it upon my dad, to do what he had to do to, bring in money. And so, like I said, I saw the examples of the various ways that they generated income. And at an early age, I guess I was about 5 or 6, must have rubbed off on me, because I recall setting up a card table in front of the family house, and I grabbed some of my the toys from my younger brothers, who are a year younger than me, and I started to sell them to the neighborhood kids instead of a lemonade stand. And my mom quickly came out and put a stop to that. But my brothers, they weren't too happy with me, and I don't think I shared the profits with them.
Something you've said, and so I come from a working class background as well. Neither of my parents were particularly educated, but I was shared with a lot of love and support that they both gave me. But but I was taught to work hard, and you needed to graft. But what I've learned growing up, and now I'm an entrepreneur myself, I worked in corporate for 14 years, but now as an entrepreneur, that actually sometimes working hard can be counterproductive, and actually working smart is actually a much better, more efficient, effective way of being able to run a business. What's your thoughts on that?
No, that's a great point. Because I learned in business, there's a term, just being busy or busy work, and, there's such a thing as smart work. So, you don't want to be doing a lot of things that are not productive or counterproductive to your business. So you learn, from doing, I guess, what the good things are and what the bad things are that you should drop.
It's funny, that whole point of busy is an interesting concept, because when I was working in the corporate, there were people that just were like busy bees all the way, going around having a meeting here, a meeting there, and had to go and do this, I have to go and do that. And there used to be a great frustration for me, because it was like you need to be productive, you need to be efficient, you need to work smart as best you can. And now, when I talk to friends of mine who are entrepreneurs and business owners, and it's less that sort of busy bee, but it's like, are you a good busy or a bad busy? This whole concept of being busy and keeping yourself active and whatever, I think it's changed for me. And now it's like, because if you're doing the things that you love doing, and we'll get onto your business very soon, if you do what you love doing and you can make some money out of it, then that's that whole point of being busy. You don't need to try and enforce yourself to being busy, because the most important thing is doing what you love and getting value, or providing value to your clients.
Exactly. And, that was one of the reasons why I chose to leave my job, my full-time job, back in 1981. That's the last time I worked for anybody.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I've been in business for over 41 years. But I remember when I was working, I had to learn how to look busy. I would complete my work, and then I learned how to pace myself, because if I completed my tasks and then, it looked like I wasn't doing anything, my boss would come by and say, well, you know what, why aren't you busy? Why aren't you doing your job? And I said, well, I'm finished my job. What am I supposed to do? And then, my coworkers would tell me, Brian, you have to learn how to look busy.
So what was the original job? What was the job that you did, first of all, before Clean Lots?
Oh, okay. Well, as a teenager, I worked in sales, selling sporting goods. And then when I started working full time for the same company, it was as a shipper receiver in the shipping department.
Okay.
I kind of enjoyed it, but after a while, I just decided it wasn't for me, and I needed to find something that I enjoy doing myself and working for myself.
So you started it as a side hustle, Clean Lots, in 1981.
Yes.
So you're famous for having the simplest business, which I think is amazing, because simple is absolutely the way forward on most things. So what started you thinking that this was actually a business or a side hustle initially, and then building it into a business?
Well, I remember, my dad did things on the side, and one of which I mentioned earlier was cleaning up litter from a nearby shopping plaza. And he had taken me along with him a couple times when I was, 12, 14, 15 years of age, just to help him out. And, we had the opportunity to, first thing in the morning to, spend some time together and talk. But the work actually was really easy. We just walked around the parking lot, the sidewalks, the surrounding landscape, and we would sweep up any litter material that we came across into our litter collection tools. And it was almost as easy to do as going for a walk. And so, when I was looking at business opportunities, I didn't have much of an education, not a lot of money in the bank or skills at the time. And so I thought, well, you know what, why not see if there is a market for this business full time? And unfortunately, back in 1981, my dad passed away at the end of July 28th. And I started my business the first week of September. So I didn't have his experience, his contacts to call upon. So I basically started from scratch, other than, the idea, maybe there's money behind this. And so, like I mentioned, there was no internet back then. So, what did you do to find prospects at the time? You just went through the big, fat, yellow pages telephone directory. And I let my fingers.
The old school Google, isn't it?
Yeah. And as the saying back then was, let your fingers do the walking. And so I started going through who my prospects are or were, still are, property management companies, real estate management companies, real estate developers. And I developed an elevator pitch. This is who I am, and this is how my service can benefit you. And I started cold calling these property management companies. Wow. And about 5-6 calls in, the person I was talking to said, well, this was a very opportune time for you to be calling us, because we were actually having the discussion in the office this morning that we weren't happy with the service provider we currently have. Would you be interested in taking a look at a couple of our properties and getting back to us with prices? And that's how it all started. Those were my first 2 buildings. And that's when I started learning what I needed to do for tools, how, the best way to service a property, to be most efficient in my cleaning methods, et cetera, and marketing myself to other prospects.
How did you initially work out the pricing for this business?
Well, it's based on labor. It's not on square footage. It's based on the time it would take you to clean any given property, and no 2 properties are the same. Basically, I mean, you can have 2 identical properties, but that doesn't mean they'll both fetch the same price, because you've got factors to consider, such as what type of tenants or businesses are located in the property. Do they generate more litter material than, let's say, other types of businesses would? How much traffic is in the neighborhood? Is there some schools in the neighborhood where kids naturally would congregate before and after school, and perhaps at lunchtime, and buy pizza by the slice, and oftentimes just leave their trash or litter in the parking lot? So you have to factor in those things, and it comes from experience. But basically, I charge my customers a set price per month, for regular service. Depending on the size of the properties, And the types of properties, it could be for 3-day-a-week service, it could be 5-day-a-week service, or even 7-day-a-week service. And then I send them a contract proposal with a set price, for example, $750 a month or $2,500 a month, and then service their property year round.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show. Meet the future of healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe, and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, meet the future of healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
Fascinating. It really is fascinating. And do you, obviously most entrepreneurs have the lifeblood of entrepreneurship is sales. And it sounded to me that the first you found the Yellow Pages, like the old Google, and you went and made calls and met people. How have you developed your sort of sales strategy from those initial days up to where now I'm assuming you're quite a well-oiled machine to be able to close sales?
I learned that you need to focus on the benefits. I don't look at it that I'm selling anything to anybody. I don't believe in hard sales. Basically, I introduce myself to people or, maybe prospects, and I tell them how my service can be a benefit to them. In other words, I can give them a cleaner, litter-free property for less money. And, my prospects always want to know a better way and ways to save money. And then I share details as to how I do that. It could be via email or in conversations. And right now is the best time. There's never been a better time to start a business because you have all sorts of platforms, mediums where you can share that message with your prospects. For example, Google My Business. A lot of people have a website, but they neglect to get a profile on, or get listed with the various search engines. And, it actually operates similar to a mini website where, you can post content, images, videos. But more importantly, because you're listed with the search engines, you're going to show up in search whenever a prospect is looking for your service or product. And so you don't have to be adept at every single platform out there, social media. For example, like I'm a business B2B, or business to business. So it doesn't make much sense for me to be on Facebook. My prospects are going to be on LinkedIn. So that's where I want to be. And, you get on LinkedIn, and then, you can reach out to property managers and ask them, if you could follow them, if you can connect with them, and even create a business page on LinkedIn. And that's where you can also share some posts where your prospects are going to see those posts rather than just the general public at large.
And so what area do you cover now?
Well, I'm all in the Calgary area and a radius outside of the city in some surrounding communities. So, we're all over the place, all over the city. When I started out, I tried to keep my cleaning route, fairly compact. But then as I added more people to work for us, we've got an army that, blankets the city. And then also, a couple of cities outside of the city of Calgary as well. And we've got quite a few people. So there's never much travel time between one property to the next for our crew.
And how many employees do you have now?
There's about 8 to 11. Any given time, we've got part-time people, people that work for us full-time. And then, we, of course, do a lot of the properties ourselves, like myself. I mean, I've scaled back in the number of hours that I put in every day, but I really enjoy the satisfaction from seeing the results of my work. And, and knowing that I'm making my community a cleaner environment. And so it's great exercise. It's almost like as easy as going for a walk. So I don't really see myself not ever doing it. As long as I'm healthy, I may further scale back my hours. But the way I see it, I get great exercise every morning, and I get compensated for it.
So you still pound the streets? You still clean?
Yep.
How many hours a week do you do now, or month, whatever?
Well, I typically put in 3 or 4 hours a day into providing the service, and then I operate the office as well.
Right. And you've got a book out, haven't you?
Yes, I share my experience and offer free support through it as well in my book, Clean Lots, America's Simplest Business.
And what's the story behind the book?
Well, about 4 years into the business, it dawned on me, I kind of stumbled upon a very simple business that, if I could start it and be successful, why can't other people? So I decided to share my experience in the form of a book. And, as the years went by, some people, they would tell me, Brian, you're nuts. You're giving away this information for almost nothing. You should franchise it. But then, the memory of my dad and his humble beginnings, I thought, well, I want to make this affordable to people such as ourselves, where we've got maybe some limitations. We don't have deep pockets, if you will, and really, there's no benefit to anyone paying me franchise fees, royalty fees, because it is such a simple business. You learn it. And, I provide my experience in the form of a book. It's more like an operations manual, similar to what you would get if you purchased a franchise. And it also comes with the free support, which I provide. My contact information is in the book. Anytime someone needs some help or has a question, they can reach out to me. And that's the most affordable way. And I get a kick out of hearing and seeing success stories, from people that have bought my book in years gone by.
Do you think, is your book very focused on the business type, the cleaning litter, or is it more generic about how to run a business?
Well, I'm sure you can. It's both. I mean, if you wanted to learn how to start another service, for example, there's a lot of tips and tricks you could take out of my book and apply them to that. And the same goes for the support I provide. Obviously, I'm more experienced in selling a service than a product, but you're really, from running a business for as long as I have, you kind of learn, this platform would work better, perhaps, if you were marketing a product than a service, and vice versa. So, I've some people have reached out to me and asked me if I can, provide some consultation, to them. They have a business idea and they're looking for, ways to launch it. And so, yeah, I'm happy sharing my experience.
How do you not be diverted to the shiny penny syndrome that, like, you've been doing the same business for 41 years? How have you remained so focused on that business model and not been attracted by spin-off businesses or potential other opportunities?
I have a passion for it. And, that's a great question, because a lot of people, when they, look for business opportunities and they think they want to work for themselves, they fall into that. They start chasing the dollars and the money and the shiny syndrome where, and they look down at a lot of other opportunities that potentially are extremely lucrative. And I tell people, don't follow the bucks, because chances are, if you do that, if that's your prime motivation, as soon as you run into some problems or difficulties, you're more apt to give up on it. But if you find something that perhaps maybe you can monetize, like a hobby that you can monetize, or you feel you've got a calling, you want to make a difference in your community, whatever the motivation is. If you have a passion for whatever it is. And everyone's got a certain skill to bring to the table. You're going to be more likely to be successful. And then the more successful you become, I've been around 40 years, so some people consider me to be an expert. The money follows, and that's where the money comes in. It's being very good or the best at what you do.
Have you never thought of selling products like cleaning materials or buckets or things like that you could have that support your business? They complement the business rather than anything. Have you ever thought of spanning out into that?
Well, then there's the logistics. Can you find somebody that will drop ship products for you, or if not, are you going to warehouse the items? Then there's the questions like that, which I'm really not interested in doing. But what I've done in terms of creating complementary products to my book, I've done, and they're digital products. So if someone wants additional tools to help market their business after buying the book, I have a business marketing video, which is kind of like an explainer video. And I've got a business template, package that helps people, create forms, based on my template. They just insert their own contact information. And so I'm kind of looking down that road in terms of developing future products, as opposed to something that would be more of a physical product, or a tool.
Why is simple best?
Because it's easy. I don't believe in complicating things. I think really life is simple. It's people that make it difficult. My wife works, and she's always telling me that, and she's a project manager, and she's just dumbfounded that sometimes people will go out of their way to create something that just makes the whole process that much more difficult. And it's not really making anything more simple. And so, and people have that temptation to often do that. And so with my business opportunity, my business, and part of the reason I've been in it for 40 years, I enjoy the simplicity behind it.
Fascinating. Thank you very much. So what's the plan for the next 2 to 5 years?
Well, I want to continue sharing this opportunity with as many people that are interested in making a difference in their community by providing for a cleaner environment, and assisting them from the support that I provide. And we'll see how my health holds out. I'm 62 now. It's great exercise. I hope to continue doing this for the next several years, and we'll see where it goes.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. We're coming to the end of the interview. I asked the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're quick-fire questions. They do not need a quick-fire answer. The first one is, what's the best decision that you made?
Working for myself. Wow. I didn't have a lot of stuff to start with, but I found ways to make it work. So I encourage people, go for it.
How did you... So you bootstrapped. You obviously those. How did you that first week, that first month, that first year? Was it just establishing the business, or was it like what was the first sort of year like?
Well, pretty much. After I started it in September, it was about 3 or 4 months later that actually I was making more money doing this on the side than I was from my full-time job. So that's when I took the first step, and I quit my job, and then I was working for myself for the first time, full time. And because I had extra time on my hands, then I was able to market my business more, so that I could scale the side gig into a full-time business, and then learning from doing.
Absolutely. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Well, that I've been given?
Yeah.
My grandfather told me, and he was a school teacher among many other things in his long life. He always told me, Brian, there's no such word as can't. And I didn't really understand what he meant by that, but I guess he was trying to tell me that, don't make excuses for, and oftentimes people, they think they have their best interests, for you, but sometimes family or friends will tell you, you can't do that, Mark. There's no point even trying. And sometimes maybe they're jealous and they'd like to do it, but they can't, for whatever reason, feel, they feel stuck in their life. So they don't want to encourage you to pursue your dreams. So yeah, there's no such word as can't.
Excellent. Who's helped you most in your career?
I probably, even though my dad wasn't around to see me start the business, just his example, I still, look back on his life and he was a great teacher for me growing up, and as was my mom.
Do you have any regrets?
No. I made some mistakes along the way, but you learn from mistakes, and they're lessons. So, I can't really say I have any regrets.
Fantastic. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of how I turned this, my dad's side gig into a very successful business of 40 plus years. And I'm sure if he's looking down at me, he'd be really proud of what I've done.
What does legacy mean to you?
The memory, how people remember you. I've touched a lot of lives, and, hopefully, when I'm gone, people will have fond memories of how I helped them.
And where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
My website, cleanlots.com. On my homepage, there is a free download report. If you're considering the opportunity, not sure about it, you can just get the free download PDF report. And then also there's a 3-minute video on my website as well that shows me doing the work, walking the property and using the tools that I use to clean up, and gives people a really good understanding of what my business and service is all about. And my book is also available on Amazon.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Brian. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. It's been fascinating speaking to you about your 40-year-old business.
Thanks, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.